do know a thing or two about Nickelback, and and I do know a thing or two about the phenomenon of Nickelback sucking.
Let's start with that. Exactly when did Nickelback begin to suck?
Not remarkably, the time at which Nickelback began to suck started shortly after we started to sell millions and millions of albums. Until that point, we were sort of the beloved darlings who clearly had no chance, hopeless, hapless, never going to make it, and everybody loves an underdog until they're no longer the underdog, and then once you're not the underdog anymore, that's when you start to suck.
Can you nail it down to one of your album releases? Is there a particular artistic moment in time where you went from being the indie darling to, let's face it, sucking?
That is the time when we released at that time, our album that had, done the best for us. So it was an album called Silver Side Up, which was, sadly enough, released on September 11th, 2001, which was a day that did suck. Most definitely changed the world, and not for the better. But that was also the day that our lives changed, because our biggest record to that point came out that day, and we had a very, very successful single. How You Remind Me was being played in the United States at the time that the album came out. They say that there was, at any given second in those days, that song was in play on radio somewhere in the United States. There was literally a continuous loop. Like there was never a moment in that year when it wasn't playing.
Look, I wasn't even listening to radio at the time, and that earworm burrowed its way into my skull.
Yeah.
And like I said, I wasn't even listening to music. So you went from having kind of, as you said, indie darling, you were moving along, you were being successful, but then that day happened and it blew up. Like, was it an immediate blow up? Was it a slow burn? Or just one day you're a working musician, the next day you are top tier superstar, however you want to phrase it?
We woke up, well, first of all, prior to the release of the album on September 11th, 2001, we had been out on tour. The album had been finished for some time. We had been working singles to radio, and the single How You Remind Me had kind of peaked a few weeks prior, maybe 6 weeks prior to the release of the album. And that was when it started to get weird. It got really, really big, and it just reacted in a global way, very, very strangely. We were getting played and listened to in countries we'd never been to before. People, we didn't even know were listening to us. They were, our song was everywhere. Crazy places like Bangkok and other places where we've never even thought about going. We're, consistently and continuously playing our music. And it just turned right there. And the thing about being sort of a critic's darling or whatever, that only lasts until you start to achieve a level of success. And then you're no longer the underdog that everybody's pulling for. Then you become sort of like a monolith. You become dehumanized, and you're no longer a band of four guys from Canada. You're more, now you're the big machine that feels no pain and everybody can take shots at, because what do they care? They're just a big rock band. Nobody in a big rock band has feelings.